Okay. We are on our way to being live on Facebook. We are on multiple platforms. We're in multiple countries, syndicated on multiple stations. And there it is. I think we are live. If you want to share it there now, guys, you can. Let's see.
Let's see again. Give me a second.
We are on our way to being live on Facebook. We are on multiple.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. A good moed and a chag sameach, and welcome back to the show formerly called Coffee Talk. While you were away, we got a new name. And maybe we should begin with that. Benny Michelle is still, is there a way to knock people off that you don't like? While you were away, we got a new name. And we went from Coffee Talk to Behind the Bima. And we did that for a few reasons. First of all, we felt Coffee Talk wasn't really that catchy, unless in the 1980s you liked TV on Saturday night. Also, we broadcast 9 p.m. Who's drinking coffee then, other than obnoxious chatters, commenters in the chat box? So we went with Behind the Bima. 3 rabbis. We're going to bring in guests occasionally. And we're trying to give you some insight, 2 rabbis behind the Bima, of what our life is like when we are unplugged, unscripted, behind the scenes, just casually chatting, talking, sharing, and we're kind of off script together. So first thing to know, welcome to the very first installment of Behind the Bima. I want to begin by making a l'chaim. Grateful to my friend the Rabbins for dropping off this beautiful bottle of wine, Erev Pesach, CB 2016. Never ever heard of it, but I heard of it now. It's delicious. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. And really, I want to fulfill the mitzvah to drink Simchas Yantif, to fulfill a little joy. Excuse me, went down the wrong pipe. But also to be able to say l'chaim. We're living through a dark period of, unfortunately, too much death. And to be able to wish one another a l'chaim, to say to one another to life, we should all merit to live long and prosperous and healthy lives that we can be proud of, is something that we have to take advantage of, being able to wish one another. So we have a lot of topics to talk about tonight. We'd originally planned on bringing in a special guest, but they were unavailable tonight. And the truth is, it's a gift for us because we got a long list of things that we need to cover tonight. And so I'm grateful that we have the chance. Let's see, where should we begin? Well, let me begin first by asking each of you, tell me about your Seder this year. How was it different than most years? Better, worse? Did you like it more? Did you not like it? How was it different than most years? Rabbi Moskowitz. Oh, you're muted. Oh, I love that. Oh, you're both muted. No wonder that was so peaceful.
There you go. Now I am. Here we go.
Yeah. Oh.
Hey now.
Okay. So again, Rabbi Moskowitz, talk to us about your Seder.
My Seder was phenomenal, Baruch Hashem. The first night was a little stronger than the second night, as I think is usually the case. But unfortunately, not the first time we've been alone for Pesach. So my kids kind of know the routine of what it's like to have a Seder by ourselves. And it was great. Lots of songs. You know, we referenced in the past that because the kids didn't have as many projects from school, so it enabled more, I'll call it organic conversations. And that's exactly what happened. It was really nice. We did a Seder Zoom with my mom and my in-laws before Pesach so that they could give a little nachas to them. And at the Seder night, it was just really nice. It was just go with the flow, whatever the kids wanted. I also want to give a shout out to Rabbi Aaron and Elisheva Levitt, who sent out a fantastic Parsha packet for youth. They collaborated on with youth directors around the country. And there were questions in there. There were things that just helped us guide through the Seder. It was really phenomenal. And as we've been saying the whole time, it's really nice spending time with family. Who knew?
Thank you so much. So Howard, we're going to come to you in a second, Rabbi Brody, but Rabbi Moskowitz, was this year better, worse, different? Do you wish it could be like this every year, or was this a one-time thing and you can't wait to get back to the way it normally is? Can you?
So I'll tell you what we missed. I'll tell you what we missed a lot. The Seder night is the only time of the year that my mother-in-law shares her family story about the Holocaust. And it's really the only time that my mother has an opportunity to share her family history. So that we definitely lacked. In other words, we had a lot about the Seder and a lot about Haggadah, but we definitely lacked the tradition, Masorah, relationship with previous generations. So that was definitely missing. So there are definitely parts I would want to take with me. I like the organic part of it. I like the part where it's more natural and free-flowing. On the other hand, when you don't have grandparents there, you miss a lot from the Seder. You miss a lot about the family narrative. You miss a lot about the stories, a lot of the shtick that comes around with Sedarim. So that I definitely miss, and I would never want to be without that again.
Brody, let's come to you. Tell us about your Seder. How was it this year compared to most years? Should we play like the third grade? What time did you finish? Who finished latest?
Yeah, but I really thought our Seder would end probably earlier than ever, because it's just us. There was just 6 of us around the table. We ended, I think, the first night after midnight and the second night close to 1, which for us, and me, let's do it. Let's have fun. And then it's over. I'm going to be tired. First of all, everyone took a nap. I didn't take a nap, but it was great. It was really, every little was different. We normally do the outreach Seders. You have 50 people a night. And this night it was only 6 of us. So it was something that alone was different. And there was just fun things we never could do. I'll tell you, Simone was a little bit more, let's call it uninhibited, because she's not in front of other guests that we don't normally hang out with. So we got dressed up the second night. We did a little, Paro. I think she might have been like a Cleopatra or something, but it was really fun. I know the kids really expected it. I don't think anyone on this video might be expecting that right now.
Right.
But it was just a lot of fun. We're really going to do this again. I guess next time we do with my mom and my in-laws, but there's no question having a Seder alone is something which we haven't really had in a long time. So
we had a beautiful Seder. We had 2 beautiful Sedarim, again, with our kids. Even it's bizarre. Both my parents and my in-laws are each a block away in the same community. Just kind of a manifestation of the incredibly insane times we're living in. To have both sets of parents a block away and yet you're having Seder apart is really a reflection of the crazy times. So we certainly miss being together, but it was nice. Like you said, no pressure. We often also have a ton of guests. We usually lead one Seder at the Shul, and you're kind of on and you're feeling responsible to carry it for everybody. And here really just with family, with children. And yeah, it's an interesting thing because, and I want to move on. We have so many important things to talk about, but someone shared with me a Twitter feed with a conversation. A lot of the older people really missed being with their children, grandchildren, particularly older people who are alone. It was an intense year, a difficult year, a harsh year. Our hearts go out. We're so grateful that those who were able to make it through and experience the best in it. It was very hard, but for some of the younger families, they're actually embracing and cherishing the way it was this year. To the point that it'll be interesting because some are saying, normally I go to the Seder, it's me and 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of my siblings, each married with their kids, multiple Seders happening at one Seder, competing, who can give the Dvar Torah, who's reading the Agada, the inevitable spills, the inevitable fights. And this year was so nice. It was so refreshing. But hopefully people don't get too used to it, because even though for some, it actually ended up being maybe even a little nicer than usual, it's sort of not the way it's meant to be, or at least we should 1-on-1 with the Seder. So it's kind of an interesting thing. We did something very unusual. Yeah, sure. Go ahead. No,
I was just going to say, did you guys find that there was less tension in terms of like family fighting? Like normally there's always just fighting. Something always erupts into a fight. This year there was nothing. I don't know, like no one, like normally it's not a Seder unless someone runs away from the table crying. And that's kids and adults. Every year there's someone doing that. I might have done that once. I don't remember.
Is that one of your guests, or is that usually someone from the family?
No, when we do like an extended family Seder.
I got you.
Did you find that it was a little less,
Yeah, I actually found it calmer also. Yeah. I think, I think we're in a time that's intense. Yeah, it feels like a crisis, an urgent time. And I think people have brought out the best. People are on their best behavior. And yeah, right. I saw it too. I hear that. So we did something very unusual.
Nice.
Unusual for us as Orthodox rabbis, unusual for us as an Orthodox shul. We sent out an email on Erev Yantif, and we basically said to people something we've never said before in my career, in my life, but here's our phone number. And if you have an emergency, don't hesitate to call. We don't normally do that. In theory, people should have our phone number every Shabbos, every Yantif, and a bona fide emergency, life-threatening situation. Of course, saving a life supersedes Shabbos, Yantif. We don't normally send out our phone number, and yet because of the unusual circumstance and some of the challenge it poses to mental health and physical health, we said, here's our address. Come if you need companionship, if it's a crisis, if it's an emergency, and call if you need us. It was risky. It was putting ourselves out there. Not every rabbi. I spoke to some of my colleagues. Is everyone doing that? Should we do it? Rabbi Willig was the one who, of course, strongly supported that from a halachic position, and we had his shoulders to rest upon, that we were able to do so, and to say that we'd be monitoring our phones. So I want to ask you, I know Rabbi Moskowitz, you left your phone on like I did. Did you monitor it? How'd you monitor it? What was that experience like? How did it impact your sense of Yontif? Did it give you a feeling of what doctors feel like on a regular basis? Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was definitely strange. I will say, I don't know if you had the same experience, but simply leaving my phone there, Erev Yontif, was an enormously emotional experience. And seeing it all of Yontif and knowing why it was there and knowing that there are people out there that needed it and used it as a resource, every time I saw it, I became very emotional. It was monitored, and I know you received a few phone calls over Yontif, and maybe you'll speak a little bit more about that. I did not receive any phone calls. I was stopped. Someone did come over to my house, though, to speak in person, and we did check up on a few people who we knew were alone for Yontif, knocked on their door, stood a number of feet away, and just waved to them through the window, let them know we're thinking of them, and really just making sure that they're okay. We did that for a bunch of older people in the community, actually. We had neighbors either meet them out in the yard and wave to them, or just knock on a window or knock on a door. But having my phone there, I found very, very emotional. It brought to the front all the reasons why it was there, and that there are people alone this year. And, you know, as I mentioned, my mom was alone this year. It was very emotional to know that there are people out there that would utilize this as a resource and that needed it, and that there was so much loneliness and aloneness in the world. So again, for me, it was just like a constant reminder all of Yontif, no matter how, you know, whatever you and I are feeling in our homes, to remember what's out there and the pain and the suffering that's being caused by
I agree. I had a similar experience. It was almost like a ritual of plugging it in. My phone is next to my bed. It's there 24/7, 24/6 it's on, and for 25 hours a week, it's actually in the drawer and the volume is off. And this was very different, really being mindful to plug it in a central place in the home, and kind of the ritual of plugging it in and making the statement that this young is different than all others, and we need to be available in more of an emergency way than all others, was something that really impacted me. I did get phone calls over Yontif, and spoke on the phone twice. And as bizarre and unusual and awkward as it was for me, it was that times a million for my children, particularly my younger children, saw me on the phone, and it was like an existential crisis. Abba, like the Shomer Shabbos, Shomer Yontif, Abba the rabbi, what are you doing on the phone? And it was a teachable moment because it was an opportunity to communicate how saving a life pikuach nefesh supersedes everything else, and taking care of those who are vulnerable and fragile, and making clear that anyone who needs us, we will be available. We're the captains of the ship, and that's our mission, to be there, to steer the ship for people the best of our ability. Was a real educational moment for me. And from that moment, my children were on notice and watch. I had turned the notifications in the phone on and the sound on, and that if a call came in or a notification came in, you saw all my children from wherever they were in the house run to look at the screen to see what was going on. We had a housekeeper that was there a few hours each day, and when she was there, I asked her to touch the screen, and I can look at the home screen to see whether there was a phone call I missed. In between doing that, spaced out, when I started to feel concerned, what if someone was trying to reach me, I, with a shinoi, with my knuckle of Zilberstein, that is tshuva. In fact, Rav Zilberstein put out, we could talk about this also. We got a long list of things here. So if you're on the clock tonight, good luck to you. But Rav Asher Weiss printed a set of tshuvas for Yontif about coronavirus, or Schechter has a set of tshuvas, and Rav Yitzchak Zilberstein has. And in his tshuvas, he had one about this. He had actually, in Israel, the question came up. If you were tested for coronavirus and you were due to get the answer to your test on Shabbos or Yontif, could you answer the phone from the Ministry of Health to be able to find out whether, in fact, you were positive? And he said yes. Rav Asher Weiss said yes. And Rav Zilberstein said yes. And he, in his tshuva, actually has a diagram how to answer with your knuckle, with the back of your hand, how to hold the phone like this, to do things with the shina in an unusual way that lowers it from a biblical prohibition to a rabbinic. So I learned how to scroll my phone with my knuckle. And 2 times I saw that there were calls that I had to call back. One was a person who was in crisis with mental health, was experiencing tremendous trauma, loneliness, crisis, danger. And I'm glad I had the opportunity to speak, intervene, help contribute towards calming them, and of course, wish them well and the best. And the other was someone who called with a end-of-life shayla, whose father was literally end of life and needed some real halachic guidance in real time of what to do and decisions that had to be made. This is what happens when we're home. Guys, take it out. So questions that had to be made in real time, and was able to guide them after the person passed away. So it was awkward. It was unusual, to a degree, even painful. It's like losing your innocence to a person who's proudly kept Shabbos Yom Tov their whole life, to be in that position to, so to say, be violating it. But on the other hand, to do so for the sake of trying to help others was a teachable moment for me in my own life and an experience for my family. And one of the great things about the rabbinate, Rabbi Brody, maybe you could weigh in on this, because I know that your kids are very involved in your rabbinate. One of the things that my wife and I always talk about, she's going to be a special guest one of these days on here. But one of the things that we talk about is the rabbinate's rough on our kids. Maybe our kids should be special guests one day on behind the Bima. But the rabbinate can be rough on kids. They lose a sense of privacy, and there are some challenging. But I think that the brachas and opportunities far outweigh the challenges. And when it's not only Chabad rabbis, but all of us, our families are, whether they've chosen it or not, are recruited to be part of the team. They're part of this mission. They're part of this effort, and they get to have the satisfaction. They get to have the meaning, the fulfillment. They're there when there's the knock on the door and the crisis in the middle of the night, and they know what it's like to have that incredible feeling that comes from trying to be helpful. So my kids got a sense of that by partnering to see if the phone rang, and even understanding when I had to make that phone call. But Rabbi Brody, talk about, I know your kids are very involved also. Brody, you there?
Yeah, they're all very involved. And I'll tell you also, you mentioned about just taking care of the needs, and in this case, the emotional needs of so many. And I know firsthand, but I've heard already from a few people that both of you regularly are checking in, leaving messages for those that are older. And I'm just telling you, I heard from one person, she might even be watching right now, my mom, how much that meant. First of all, she thinks you're the only one that she called. And I said, of course, you're the only one that he called. Okay, so that goes without saying. But at the end of the day, getting a message, and it's so easy now with WhatsApp to leave messages for people. You record a message, it's 1, 2, 3, but it really, really good. You get a call from the rabbi. It's like such a great thing. So
Brody, Rabbi Brody, let me interrupt you to say, it's hard and we can do better. And I'm sure there's someone watching will hear about this, will be like, oh, they're so great. No one ever called me. No one ever checks in on me. It's hard. Thank God we have a really large synagogue, a large community, a large shul, and we love everybody. We care about everybody. It's hard. So try to cut us some slack, give us the benefit of the doubt. We're doing the best we can, although we acknowledge we can always do better. But thanks. But come back to your kids. How are your kids part of Team Brody and the work that you do as a rabbi?
I think it's funny. It depends, I think, on the kids. Some of them are really into it, and some of them are really not into it. You know, I think most of them, I'm trying to think, there's 6, you got 1, 2, you probably have 3 that are really into it.
I know all their names.
What are your birthdays?
I know the birthdays. I'm doing my ancestry.com right now. I know everyone's birthday. You even found a Moskowitz as a relative. But it's interesting. Some like love it. Like I give you an example. Like Eliana will get up and she wants to just give a speech and she wants to talk to people and she'll run Friday Night Live. I got others that won't. I think that there's some that are afraid to come to shul right now because of it's a little too overwhelming. It's like we've created this environment of like it's so exciting. It's so big. If you're not so into it, it's like maybe it's not for me. So we're all struggling with that.
They never signed it just because you went into this career, just because you have this passion.
Exactly.
They didn't sign up for it. They just want to be kids. I know Josh.
You'll never see AJ on the Bima. You'll see, you know what I mean?
You barely saw AJ on the Bima at his own bar mitzvah. What are you talking about?
You're right. It's just not, he's like, I don't want the spotlight. I don't want it. I put me in the back of the shul. I'm happy there. So
we can transition to another topic. And again, we got so much here. We're going to get to a difficult kind of one in a moment. But before we get there.
Can I just say one thing before you go on? Before you leave the Seder?
Our show.
No, this is great. I don't know where I heard it from. It could have been one of you. Someone was giving, did many, I watched many of these pre-online Siddharim just to get ideas. So someone said, every year everyone fights over the one afikomen that you hide. So instead, if you have 3 kids looking for the afikomen, just have 3 afikomens and you split it up and everyone looks for the afikomen. Nice. So I got this after 2 nights and 6 afikomens. I got the best hiding spot. And you guys could use it next year. I'm telling you, it's psychological. They don't even see it. I hid it behind the couch and behind the picture and all the classic spots on the bookcase. So at Hillel 1 year, they gave out like the place cards for the dinner. We're on like a clip. It's like a Polaroid. right? So what I did, I put the afikomen, a piece of afikomen, in plain view on the clip, on the bookcase. Everyone, you could see it. They were looking at it. They went up and down. They looked at it for probably 500 times. But when you think it's hidden and you think it's in a thing, you can't see it. It's right in front of you.
Okay.
Find it.
There's actually great research about that. You ever see it with the gorillas passing the basketball?
Yeah,
Right.
There's a book written about it afterwards.
We saw that at Kellogg.
If we were more sophisticated, we'd do a screen share here and show it to you on YouTube. But basically, you watch a group of people standing there passing a basketball back when you were allowed to pass the basketball back and forth to each other. And the instructor, or the teacher, or whoever says, count how many times they're passing the ball. And you count, and everybody afterwards, 8, 10, 15, 20 times. Everyone says, did anyone see gorilla? Nobody saw a gorilla. Who sees a gorilla? And they show the video in slow motion. And in the middle of passing the basketball, a gorilla walks right in the middle. And they keep walking, and nobody sees the gorilla. Because when you're focusing on how many times the ball goes, nobody sees what's right in front of their eyes. What a great lesson. I will just say this, Brody, is that like Rabbi Brody? I got some Muslim from last time that you called me Rabbi, and I called Moskowitz and Brody. So Rabbi Brody.
Okay.
Doesn't matter how old you are or if you have your own show, your parents still tell you what you got to work on. So Rabbi Brody, is that minhag Elizabeth that the parent hides the afikomen? Because minhag Tinek is the kids hide the afikomen and negotiate the present.
I don't know. The parents hide.
That's like Boston.
You know what? I'm assuming it's minhag Elizabeth just because that's where I learned everything. So I don't know. I would assume it is minhag Elizabeth.
Maybe that's from your South African days. The 20 minutes.
Could be yeah. Could be.
All right. I wanted to move on. We got a controversial topic coming up. But before that, let's talk about family work balance, which for all people, doctors, lawyers, business people, teachers, for everybody, work life is a tough balance. But I think for rabbis, we don't have set hours. We're on call like many doctors, but we don't have weekends off. We don't have nights off. We don't have. So, my wife keeps telling me, she's like, it's unbelievable having you home. I've been working out of home. I'm in my home study right now. I do go into Shul also, but mostly I'm home. And she says, I don't know when this is all over, you're going to go back? What's going to happen? You're help here, the kid.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about when this is over, I may be done. I want to become the first Zoom rabbi. My whole rabbinate will be on Zoom, give some classes, talks from home, have the weekends, Yontif Shabbos with my family. Thinking about
gave a heart attack to like 900 families, by the way.
I didn't give a heart attack to anybody, but in all seriousness, in what ways, here's the question, then we're going to move on to our controversial topic, but in what ways have you tilted the scales back towards family over work in this struggle and balance during this past month? And how do you think you're going to take from it going forward when this is over? What have you tasted? What have you experienced? What did you realize within yourself that now you're going to try to sustain even when this is over? Go ahead, either one.
I guess I'll take that one first.
By the way, hold on. While you're thinking, I'll buy you a second. On Facebook, we thank God we got a nice crowd, and here on Zoom, we've got a nice crowd. Share your thoughts, questions in the comments. We've got a question from Leah Richmond, and we're going to address it in a moment. Thanks, Leah. But if you have a question, a comment, a thought, a rebuttal, share it in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Go ahead, Rabbi Moskowitz.
So I'll start off. Whatever I say, my wife is going to text me and say that I'm wrong. So
she's watching on Facebook, by the way. I saw her.
Okay. So I sometimes think I'm good at things, and then I find out after that I'm not so good at them. So listen, being home, Rabbi Brody.
On the balance, Brody has just chosen his family over us.
No. So it's amazing to be home. It's amazing to be home. It's amazing to be with my kids more. I will tell you, though, there is a downside to it. I wonder if you're finding this also. On the one hand, it's really nice to be home more. You're not running out all the time. Even meetings at night, you're in the house, which means you're able to pop in and pop out more. There's a downside to it, and I'm curious if you feel the same way. It used to be when I'm at Shul, I'm at work, and when I'm home, at least there was like an assumption that I was with the kids. But now, because you're home all the time, you're always working, you're always with the kids. So there isn't that like bifurcation as much between work time, kid time. Now it's like all the time is both combined. So you're always on your phone, you're always with your kids, you're always getting texts, You're always checking emails, and it's like all happening at the same time. So you articulated the positive, but I actually am struggling with like the flip side of it sometimes.
Interesting. So then that ends up hurting both your work time and your family time, because you're nish to here. You kind of have a foot in both places.
Correct. Like for me, again, I know you live closer to the shul, but for me, there's an advantage of being able to say, I'm going to shul, and when I'm at shul, I'm in shul time. And even if I'm home for 20, 30 minutes, but like that time I can identify as family time. Now it's all kind of blungeled, and I'm with the kids, I'm doing work, I'm checking emails. Yeah, by the way, as I was coming out, I was anticipating the response.
Yeah, with the word,
we'll bring it up.
You got to nail it. You got to land it.
I know. But anyway, so yes, it's really nice to be home, but I'm finding a challenging side of that, which is that you're always working, you're always with the kids, and those two are always combined with each other.
Rabbi Brode.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm spending a lot more time with the kids, I think, now than I've ever spent in my entire life. And with Simone, which is, it's a whole new world. I haven't left the house. I literally haven't left the house in a week. She's looking at me now. Okay. But that's true. That's true. Right, hon? It's great. We're doing good. Never been better. And then I'll tell you also is that I think between work and the family, I've actually had a chance to do things that I just have never had a chance to do. I love it. I'm playing piano right now, playing my guitar. I want to get a set of drums over here. I'll figure out how to get them in, and learning. You know me, I hate reading. I'm reading now, and I don't even want to be reading, but I enjoy the reading. So I'm just, it's like you work. Okay, I got 10 minutes now. Let me go to the piano. I got 10 minutes over here. Let me go back to work. Just recharge.
First of all, Rabbi Brody, reading is fundamental, so that is good that you're now reading. I'll tell you, for me, it's interesting. I'm sitting in my home study, which is Baruch Hashem, thank you Hashem, a billion times, as Glenn Galish would say. I have a wonderful study in my own home. In fact, every time Rabbi Moskowitz sees it, he's like, why don't you ever work at home if I had a study like that? And yet I'm never in it. I like live in Shul. That's like my address. That's where I live. And here, at the time, I'm working harder maybe than I ever worked during the week. I'm doing so much of it at home in this study, and I really discovered what a great space it is and what a great work environment it is. And, something I didn't fully appreciate, that for my wife and even for my kids, they say just knowing you're home, even if you're working, you're in the other room, if a person needs to walk in, ask a question, just having you around, just knowing you're there, it impacts an energy. So they're finding it nice for them, and it's nice for me. I overhear the kids and overhear and feel and draw on their energy too. And I think that when this is over, I'm going to end up using my home study more, being just as productive and efficient, I hope, but really using that and being able to exchange that energy, and for them not to feel, oh, he's out again, he's leaving again. I'll tell you something actually crazy. I wasn't going to say this, but shortly before this whole thing hit, I found a note that my 7-year-old son wrote, and it said, "Dear Abba, I'm really angry because you always leave. Love, Shai." Wow. That was the note. So I saw the note and it like tugged on my heartstrings. It really upset me. I saw it only once the song started. And I said to him, what's this about? And he said, "You're always leaving to Shul. You're always saying, goodbye, I'm going to Shul. And I hate it when you leave." And he said, "It's so nice. Now you're always home." So it's been interesting, that shift in that balance and its impact on productivity. And there are other moments. I don't know. For me, Shidduch has been like a highlight. My kids are a little older than you, Rabbi Moskowitz, and then your second bunch, Rabbi Brody. But my Shalosh Shidduch has been an amazingly special time of the week. Sun is setting, Shabbos fading away, singing, no rush. And we've always talked about that maybe we don't all need to be at the Shul Shalosh Shidduch every week. As rabbis, of course, one of us needs to be, but maybe on a rotation. And maybe we don't have to sacrifice being home every week.
Love it.
Rotate and work in having family Shalosh Shidduchs going forward. So anyway, we're tapping into some experiences we're having now that we can draw from, and hopefully I'm happy for that one.
Does anyone ever sing along with you, Rabbi? Like we had this past Shabbos, for Shalosh Shidduchs now, we go outside back and we sing outside on the patio. And this Shabbos afternoon going to Motzei Shabbos, I guess a neighbor was walking by behind my house, overheard us talking and started singing alongside with us. And it was actually really nice because I had no idea who it was. And maybe he knew I was, maybe he didn't, but we were separated by bushes, by trees, by fence, but we were able to connect through the song. It was really, really beautiful.
Nice. That's amazing. So let's hit 2 quick questions, and then we're going to go to our controversial topic. One, Leah asks that I wore a talis during the Shabbos Hagadol drasha that we did live on Motzei Shabbos a few weeks ago. a little over a week ago, and why that was. So there is a custom, it's brought down in old sources centuries ago for the rabbi. Now, here's the thing which I hesitate to share publicly, but do you know that for most of our history, rabbis only gave 2 drushes a year, Shabbos Hagadol and Shabbos Shuvah. There were major talks or discourse.
Bringing it back.
That was, look, bringing that back. So they gave 2, Ronnie Rab listening, we're in trouble. They were each more than 8 minutes long, but there were 2 major talks a year. We love you, Ronnie. There were 2 major talks a year. And because they were so major, people congregated, even according to some, it's called Shabbos Hagadol, because people are together watching, filling the shul, and sort of adding gravitas to it was the idea of wearing a tallis. It's a communal religious experience. I wasn't sure what to do because even though most of my Shabbos Hagadol and Shabbos Shuvah drushes go deep into the night, this one only began in the night, a nighttime that we don't normally wear a tallis. But to try to give it that flavor and gravitas, I didn't make a bracha on the tallis, but I wore the tallis nonetheless, and I hope that answers your question. Our friend Rabbi Moshe Brand also asks on Facebook, with all the teaching Zooming that we've all done these past weeks, were there special Haggadahs that impacted us? What Haggadahs did we use and that we loved? So I mentioned, not actually in our broadcast, I did a question and answer with my cousin, Rabbi David Beshefkin, a couple weeks ago, and one of the questions we were asked by the moderators was our favorite Haggadah, and I said every year my father gets me a Haggadah, and that's my favorite Haggadah that year. Because that's the minhag, he gives me a Haggadah, writes a beautiful inscription. This year he gave me Pesach Kron's Haggadah, Rabbi Kron's Haggadah, which I barely got to see because my kids took it from me. And also Haggadah from a Rosh Hashiva from Bnei Brak, whose name escapes me. I hadn't heard of him. Beautiful Haggadahs, but those are my Haggadahs this year. Because over Yontif, once I could wrestle them away from my kids, I did enjoy them. Any Haggadahs that jumped out at you as your favorite Haggadahs this year?
Yeah, bangitout.com, Seder Sidekick 2020.
Okay, that is a scholarly work, no question about it. Rabbi Moskowitz, what about you?
I went back, I think it came out 2-3 years ago, The Night That Unites. It's the Divrei Torah, Rabbi Soloveitchik, Rav Kook, and Rav Shlomo Karlach. I went over it again this year. It's phenomenal. And I also I went over again this year, Rav Rimon's Haggadah, which I think is very underrated. And it's a phenomenal Haggadah, a real combination of halacha and hashkafa, very user-friendly. So I enjoyed those 2 a lot this year.
Amazing. I just want to point out that Simone Brody has joined the viewership. So, Rabbi Brody, now we really need you.
Oh, she has? Hi, you're watching?
My wife's still on?
You're watching?
I can't tell.
He just welcomed you to the show.
You guys are watching, and my family WhatsApp group is coming alive with my wife and kids talking to each other as if
Maxwell House.
What they're watching tonight. Okay, so let's move over a little bit of a controversial question I want to pose to you. I see some of our colleagues are joining us as well, whom I admire and love and love would love their input. I could actually include them to be able to speak if they were on the Zoom on Facebook. I can't do that, but I can allow them on. Allowed to talk people on the Zoom. So if you join the Zoom, I can open it up. So here's my controversial question to you. We've worked hard, we've toiled, we've consulted experts, medical experts, major poskim, rabbinic experts to try to offer our community guidelines. We're not unique. We didn't invent the wheel. We didn't even reinvent the wheel. We're working collectively around the world, Jewish communities, humanity as a whole. We talked about no minyanim, publicly, privately, indoors, outdoors. We talked about no congregating, no play dates. We talked about no meals. We talked about no inviting those from outside of Florida. We have been relentless in our emails. We have been very carefully wordsmithed with our language. We've worked really, really hard with it. And yet, with a community that's large, and it's not only in our community, reports are in from elsewhere, that there are always those outliers who have a simple and utter disregard for the communal policy, the communal guidelines, what we've accepted. And the question I have for the 2 of you, and Brody, your boss has now joined.
Yeah,
Matt
Levin.
That's right. Comes up for the big questions.
Matt, I loved your senior picture from high school. So this is the question I have for you. What should happen to those who are publicly, unabashedly, with no shame, dismissing communal guidelines? What happens when we see people congregating? What happens when we see people hosting? What happens, let's say we heard about within the community a minyan that took place outdoors because that group of people thought they knew better? Should there be consequences? What happens if we find out that there's an institution within South Florida, I'm going to be careful here, but that stayed open past when we all knew. And I want to recognize there were different timelines. Some were pushing earlier. Our colleague, Rabbi, I don't know if he's on, my dear friend and our colleague was pushing us early.
Pushed us.
But, there was a point at which even those who were slow to the party, everybody knew what was happening, shut down, what we need to do. What if there's an institution of Torah learning, Torah living that disregarded the caution, stayed open, maybe even was shut down and tried to reopen, had to be shut down again? Should we continue to write checks to them, support them, learn there, participate, go there? What happens to the individuals who've been so dismissive of our guidelines? What happens to the institutions that were late to the party or didn't partner or participate? Are there consequences? Or when it's over, will we all exhale a sigh of relief and quickly forget and move on, and everyone can participate even though things are so different? So both for the individuals and for the institutions, you think things should be different? What say you both? And again, please join us in the chat, in the Zoom. Colleagues who are on the Zoom, I could invite you to talk.
Yeah, I'll come out and say it. I don't get it. I really don't get it. I wonder if members of our community feel a false sense of security because, as you said, Baruch Hashem, b'li ayin hara, but in some regard, we've been spared what's happening in New York. I know my wife had a cousin who passed away a week ago. I know you have a relative, Rabbi Goldberg, that passed away yesterday, and it's real. Like, it's real, and there are people that are suffering. And I wonder if on Montoya Circle specifically, there is a false sense of security where people think, it hasn't really impacted us, it hasn't really affected us, so I can have a yontif meal with someone else, my kids can play with someone else. Teenagers were running around with each other all over yontif. And my guess is parents do some form of a cost-benefit analysis. They say it's either my kids go crazy and I go crazy at them, or I run the very slight risk of them interacting with each other. And the net result is they're putting our community in danger. They're putting elderly people, younger people in our community in danger. And I just don't get the irresponsibility of it. I really just don't.
Me neither. The mindset, hopefully, should be foreign to us. We shouldn't even understand it. But the question is, what should the consequence be? What is the reaction? And I'll ask.
I didn't answer that one.
Yeah, but I think the answer is very obvious. If you're basically telling us by your actions that you're not part of our community, then we don't want you in the community. Thank God, United is a very big place. You came here, you want the benefits, you're going to take the whole package. You don't like it, you can move. There's plenty of other communities. Yeah. We don't want you endangering my family. We don't want you endangering our elderly in our community. It's a joke, so go do your joke somewhere else.
Right. I agree with both of you, and I notice how you politically both avoided the question altogether. But I will say, and I echo your sentiment, that this is not a joke. This is not a game. This is not like we all agreed to, wear the T-shirt that says BRS, and you didn't wear the T-shirt. It was name tag Shabbat. We actually have this. In the future, when this calms down and we have name tag Shabbos, we could do a whole. But this is not like it's name tag Shabbos and you didn't wear your name tag, shame on you, which also is not nice and disrespectful. Or, we have our non-talking campaign and you sat in the back of Shul talking. Also wrong, also horrific implications, also contaminates the community. It's wrong. This is life and death, literally. And maybe early on that sounded like an exaggeration. Maybe early on, it sounded like it was hysteria. But now, as we're getting death notices, we're sending out death notices, not from our community, thank God, but relatives of members of our community. And Rabbi Moskowitz, you alluded to it. Yesterday was one of the hardest days I've had in a long time. My first cousin's husband, Rav Zalman Hillel Fendel, Zichrono Livracha, an unbelievable, modest, humble, kind, sweet, enormous Talmud Chacham, who's published many Svarim, admired by everybody, a father of 12 children, who got sick literally a few days ago, but happens to suffer from asthma and so quickly deteriorated that yesterday was his funeral. 12 now children without a father, my cousin who's now a widow without a husband. This is literally life and death. Rav Chaim Kanievsky, who most regard as the greatest rabbi alive, however you measure those things, and defer to him as the Sar HaTorah, he is the Prince of Torah, has called anyone who disregards guidelines a rodef, that they have the status of a pursuer, They are literally threatening the lives of others. Now, for me, this is very, very serious. And I agree with you, Rabbi Moskowitz. I think that we are victims of our own success. Our dear colleague and friend, Rabbi Dr. David Shabtai, put on Twitter earlier today, and he said that, the distancing is working. So don't say, why do we need to distance, or let's begin to ease back until experts tell us that we can, until there are antibodies, until there are immunity, until there's herd immunity, until whatever we need by experts. But the distancing is being effective, and the effectiveness is breeding a false sense of security. And people, therefore, are acting out in ways that are astounding. Whether it's a failure to cooperate, we said the Kalim Mikvah is going to remain open, use gloves, minimal time, open the packages before you get there. We had all these rules, and there's people who the rules don't apply to them. There are people walking around, 10, 15 teenagers at a time. There are people who hosted. There are people who welcome from out of state. There are people, and I will say, and I've been working on this for the last 36 hours, there was a minyan that happened outdoors, locally in our community. And when I heard that, it was like a punch in the gut, not because of my ego, maybe a little bit my ego too, but not because of my ego, but because we're working so hard to protect and preserve lives. And what do you think? You miss minyan more than I do? You miss minyan more than Rav Asher Weiss, and more than Rav Shetta, and more than every tzaddik and tzaddikas, and more than every rebel and Moshe. You miss minyan and God and Kaddish and Kedusha more. You needed that. I'll tell you, anyone who did that or went to that minyan, they're actually idolaters, and actually they're kofrim, they're heretics, because God says stay apart, and God says stay home. And when you go and try to nevertheless pierce that fence to be with God, he doesn't want you at that moment. Not because he doesn't love you, because he loves you more than you love yourself. Stay home. Stay home. So I actually contacted a person who recruited for that minyan, and I love him to death, and I admire him, and I've learned so much from him. And I know this came from a good place, because he literally just can't even tolerate not being with a minyan. And he didn't do it on purpose. He was outside davening out loud. 9 other people heard, and they said, you're out loud, davening out loud. We hear, let's just call it a minyan. But I said to him, until you apologize to the people that you recruited, most of which said no, and until you publicly admit that that was a mistake, you will not be welcome back on the BRS campus, and your membership will be revoked. I apologize to our leadership. I did not convene a board meeting to say that, but I thought that was the right thing. I thought that that's what we need to be able to say. And so I think that institutions who stayed open, not past the point of where there was discretion, but as recently as last weekend, and who did so against the orders of the health department, I don't think anyone should write a check. I don't think anyone should participate or go. I don't think we should admire or look up to. I don't think that those are Torah institutions or Torah leaders. So I know I just got a lot off my chest and said a mouthful, but I want to be on record that we are protecting lives. This is literally life and death. And that line is so thin and fine that if things begin to communicate between people, if they begin to transmit between people, it is literally life and death. I've experienced it in my family tragically, Rabbi Moskowitz, you and yours, and way, way, way too many. And this is not any place that has room for equivocation. There's no posek rabbi leader alive who believes there's any room to equivocate with this. And so I think that there have to be consequences. And honestly, I fear when this is over, we'll all go back so quickly with such a relief that we'll forgive and understand and want to love. And if we forget, we put ourselves at risk of it returning, or God forbid something like it in the future threatening us. And therefore, we should love and embrace and welcome and give an opportunity for people to say it was a mistake and I apologize. But a failure to do so, or falling short of doing so, in my opinion, just this one man's opinion, there must be consequences. What say you?
You have to unmute Rabbi Brody.
Oh, you're on Brody. Oh, hold on.
He muted.
I was reading all the comments, and I guess I got muted. There's someone out there that's got a lot to say. Let's just say that.
Okay. Well, what do you guys think?
Well, Rabbi Moskowitz, you want to go first?
No, you got it. You got it. Rabbi Goldberg, check your text, please.
Okay. So I forgot what I was going to say. You guys are all distracting me because you guys aren't. What are you guys doing over there? I didn't get the text.
Okay. Yeah.
No, but I'll say, I think one of the biggest problems that we're having right now is, we're talking about how there's such great leaders that are making these pronouncements. You're talking about, Kanievsky, talking about some of the biggest, but we're also losing some of the biggest. You look at, the head of the Motzes Gedolei Torah, you think of, Minsker, you're looking at the big Rosh Yeshivas, not only in New York, but in Israel. You're talking about some of the biggest poskim, some of the Gedolim are literally dying because of virus. And now these people that are saying, oh, don't take it so seriously, but leaders are not around to tell them what to do anymore. I think it's very scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll also add on that, and I know Rabbi Goldberg, you put a post on Facebook about this. I personally have a newfound respect for poskim. I'm not talking poskim at our level, no disrespect to any of us. I'm speaking about poskim like Rav Asher Weiss and Rav Schechter and my Rebbeim, and to issue the psak halacha that they've been issuing under the circumstances that they've been issuing it is unbelievable. As you said about Rav Schechter, but it could apply to many other poskim as well, day and night. And these aren't easy questions. These are like life-altering, dvarim she'omdim barumo shel olam type questions, and they are doing it day and night with complete selflessness. To me, that is amazingly inspiring and gives me such hope. And when we talk about kavod talmidei chachamim and stuff like that, I have it's only upped my respect enormously for talmidei chachamim.
And I want to say one other thing about you. You're 100% right, and we're so grateful. It's one of the great blessings in our life. But I want to say, because someone just shared with us that when they went for a walk on Shabbos and Yontif, they heard a minyan going on, and they didn't want to mention it. And I heard that from more than one person. This is a collective responsibility. If you see something, say something. And I'm not suggesting we take the law in our own hands. I'm not suggesting we get aggressive. I'm suggesting with the love that we have for one another in our community, with the sweetness in our heart, if you see something, there are 10 teenagers walking around at 6-inch distance, come over and say, Kinderlach, I love you, and I care about you, and I want you to be well. And therefore, you got to separate. You have to distance. If you see a minyan, say, Jews, fellow Jews, brothers and sisters, I love you. I care about you. I love all of us. With love and with sweetness, if you see something, say something. This is on all of us. I'm going to say something right now, which is,
Rabbi,
I didn't get people off.
Yeah, you need to throw some people off of the call. We are being infiltrated again.
Yeah, it's okay. They can try.
It's okay.
Okay. Hold on. Got it. Gone. I wish it were that easy in life. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to be the new.
All right, you guys have anything more you want to add
new sanctuary
on this topic? How do you get rid of?
Anyway, Rabbi Moskowitz, you ready for the last days?
What was that?
You ready for the last days? Can't believe it's already tomorrow.
I know, it's crazy. Yeah, I'm excited. I love, listen, as Rabbi Goldberg said, Yontif is so nice. Yontif, Shabbos, time with family. It's really
eating beautiful. A lot?
Am I eating a lot? Yeah, I'm trying to eat a lot. A little harder without bread.
Did you see the post of it? The one said that, after this is all over, half of us are going to be pregnant and the other half are going to look like we're pregnant.
It's funny.
I will say that the Boston Marathon was supposed to be a week from today. And
big day for you.
The grand scheme of things, that is entirely inconsequential, but it still leaves me a little bit nostalgic. This would have been the final week countdown up to the Boston Marathon, but Hashem had other plans.
It's funny because if you remember, even when they canceled it, a week later, we're like, you have another plan, and we can't even do that now.
But Hashem had plans for that plan also.
Right.
We'll be back better than ever, no question about it. Anyway, people, if you see something, say something with love, with sweetness, with the goal of all of our health and safety. If you saw someone walking with a ticking time bomb, would you not say anything because you're embarrassed or because you didn't want to get involved or because it's none of your business? So again, without being aggressive, without everybody being deputized as their own sheriff taking the law into their own hands, let's have a certain social contract. Let's agree to work together and with one another to be able to call out the people who are not abiding by guidelines which are reasonable and moderate which are universally endorsed, and which we should all be living by. And let's do so with love and kindness, and hopefully we can not be lulled to a false sense of security, but continue to have a real sense of safety. All right, let's go on to another topic. First of all, people want to know what you're drinking, Rabbi Moskowitz.
What am I drinking? I am drinking a bottle of wine from the Boca Raton Winery. It's the Lone Oak Tree Cabernet Sauvignon Reserve.
You know the story of that lone oak tree?
I do. I was going to tell it, but why don't you go first?
No, you got it.
No, you have relatives there. You
You got it. I just gave my whole tirade. I got to stop sweating and bring my blood.
I'm going to botch it now. And get an email from everyone I know in Alon Schutz. Why don't you go for it?
Don't worry. Binyamin's here to help you whenever you need it. He's always happy to correct. Go ahead.
Yes. Rabbi, please. Do you have a brother who lives there?
The Lone Oak Tree. We know that the Gush Etzion community in 1948, because by the way, the Jews lived in Gush Etzion, Samaria,
before there were settlements.
Before there was a state of Israel, before we were occupiers, we lived there way before 1948. And the Gush Etzion communities that were living, farmers, wonderful people, the women and children were evacuated. The Arabs came, and when the children left, they looked at that oak tree longing for when they'd be able to return. There was a slaughter that took place. If you go to the Gush Etzion Museum, which has been redone, I highly recommend you go there. It's an amazing display.
JNF.
The floor, and you see it's a terrible, terrible story of heroes who gave their lives to try to protect that sacred space of Israel. But anyway, from their exile of their own home in Gush Etzion, the children grew up looking at that tree that they could still see from a distance, and it represented their what do you call that? That you what do you call that? It represented a space, a place that they looked at longingly and yearned to return to. And when in 1967 we recovered what was already ours, and they were able to return home, that tree took on great significance. So we've done a lot of tours there. We used to do missions there. We've taken some great group pictures. Sal, we took a group picture underneath that tree. We took
team mission
there. We even took a March of the Living once. We hijacked the bus and took it there.
Right.
She emails us all the time from there.
Shani Simkovic?
Yeah.
So anyway, so the Gush Etzion is a beautiful winery, and they put that tree on the label of one of their great wines. It is a great wine. You're not doing them a favor by buying that wine. You're doing yourself a favor. Nice. And since beer is chametz, Rabbi Brody is going dry tonight, so he is.
I got this.
The drink. Let's go with the juice.
Series guava. This is from South Africa. I grew up drinking guava juice.
Is that a juice cleanse?
It's a juice cleanse, and this is really good. We used to vacation in this place, Series. This is where we used to go on our vacations.
How do you pronounce it? Series?
Series. Yeah.
You're confident in that pronunciation?
That's how we say it. I'm South African, okay?
The Lone Oak Tree.
Series.
Does that juice, the juicing help you with the matzah? Let my people go?
I've been eating so much matzah. I love matzah.
I'll tell you the problem with matzah. For me, matzah is like crack cocaine. Not that I know what crack cocaine tastes like, but I take one bite. I take one bite of matzah and I can't stop eating it. It's a huge problem. There's something addictive.
All right. So here, I got a really important question here. Matzah bride. Because in our family, that's a big machlokas. Machlokas.
I'll tell you.
Some people just crumble up matzah, put it in a pan, drizzle an egg over it,
a
little salt and pepper, call them matzo bride.
Nope.
Some people,
you got to soak the egg for two eggs.
There you go.
2 pieces of matzo. You soak it for at least 5 minutes.
Yes.
You soak it.
You guys are both gebruckers. You guys eat gebrucks. I do also, by the way. I just don't eat matzo. What's in the matzo? You throw in a little milk?
No. It's matzah. You soak it in water. You crack an egg in it. Little cinnamon, put it out. It becomes like a pancake. You flip it. And then here's the key. Jelly and syrup. Jelly and syrup over it. And then your money, you're golden.
Honey.
Honey, really?
Butter and honey.
What? That's sacrilegious.
Yeah, by the way, we have a great commentator.
The dog recipes.
Yeah, we have a great commentator. Her name is Rabbi Goldberg. And she just wrote, invite the Rebbitzins to talk recipes. Don't need the rabbis too. Wow, nice. Okay, but you know what? We admire our Rebbitzins and we see them as so much more than recipes. When we have them on, we're going to talk to them about such more substantive things that we believe that rabbis can also talk recipes.
There.
Anyway, what do you think of that? Take that. So drop the recipe. Okay, let's move on from the recipes. Matzah pizza.
By the way, can I tell you something about the cocaine?
Yeah.
By the way, Gersh agrees with me. And he's a chef.
Chef has weighed in, by the way, a member of the CIA. Culinary.
The almond extract, by the way. I never would have thought of that, but that fits the taste profile. Vanilla and almond extract.
Fry it up.
Never did
it. You wash on matzah brai? What's the halacha? Let's bring some Torah into this.
You wash.
I think it's a machlokas. I personally wash. I make hamotzi on regular matzah, and then I enjoy my matzah brai.
Play it safe, hedge like a good Bostoner. I like that. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Okay, matzah brai.
By the way, you heard about the guy that went. You heard about the guy that went for the corona test? So he comes back, he shows his girlfriend. There's a video. He shows his girlfriend. He's like,
I'm getting vomiting emojis from my wife right now. Yeah. Apparently she doesn't like my matzah brai.
What's your matzah brai recipe?
Yeah, but let me tell you about this. So the guy he comes back and he says, oh, look, I tested positive. COVID-19, whatever. So he's going on and on. Meanwhile, his wife takes the piece of paper and she looks at it and says, you didn't test positive for COVID-19. You tested positive for cocaine on the 19th.
Okay, I'm glad we have Rabbi Brody making significant contributions here.
Welcome, by the way, everyone welcome to our staff meetings.
Yeah. Work hard. So in order to be able to eat matzah brai, you have to eat something called gebruchts. Gebruchts, the Hasidim introduced that for fear that maybe there's some flour in the matzah that didn't fully bake, if it makes contact with a liquid, it can turn into chametz. And therefore, Hasidim in particular, those who are strict with gebruchts, they call it, don't eat matzah with any liquid. They won't even eat matzah pizza because the ketchup they call a liquid. No matzah ball in the soup. The Vilna Gaon disagreed and he said, what are you talking about? Matzah that's baked is baked. It's an unfound fear. You don't have to worry about flour. And in order to show his disagreement, Vilna Gaon famously had a matzah ball sitting in the window of his home on display for all to see. You can have it. So that happens to be my in-laws are of Hasidic descent. And therefore, they don't eat gebruchts. They might be watching right now. I love you, Mami and Abba. They don't eat gebruchts. But they used to go away for Pesach to a hotel, and it was a gebruchts hotel. Now they go to non-gebruchts. They used to go to a gebruchts hotel. But the waiter would star the menu to tell them what on the menu was non-gebruchts, that had no matzah mixed with a liquid that they were able to eat. And they were known at the hotel. You ready for this? Their name, Yochevet's maiden name is?
Bruckstein.
At the hotel, they were known as the non-gebruchtins.
Damn.
I want you to know something. We just surpassed Elon Gold's event from last night. I'm just joking. I love Elon Gold and I love Modi and all the people he had on, but it's possible we just competed with the level of funniness. Okay, funniness. Let's go on to one more topic, then we'll call it a night. We've got a couple minutes left on our wonderful stream. And couple more topics. We got a lot of commenters, a lot of people. We're very honored, flattered. We're grateful that you've joined us on Behind the Bima with the BRS rabbis. We have some great guests who will be coming on future episodes. We actually, after the last episode, believe it or not, we had 3 people who reached out to us to take us up on our offer for sponsorship for product placement. So after Pesach, the next show, you'll see Rabbi Brody will be wearing the hat of a particular company, a brand, product placement. I might have some jewelry from a particular company in front of me. And we have a major sponsor, a agency that will be sponsoring the next episode. You got to recruit a sponsor. That's how this works.
So, Mordechai Weinsteiner said you could tattoo his new business on yourself.
I had the coffee last time.
He said you could just put it across your chest. Call Mordechai, $10 off.
If you want to sign up for product placement, if you want to sign up for sponsorship, we are open to ideas, and we look forward to your partnership and getting this out there and really going viral in a good way. So I had a lot of topics, a lot of heavy topics. Maybe we'll do one more heavy topic and end on a light note. So a heavy topic is someone.
Oh,
are we good?
Chef Gersh.
Chef Gersh.
Going to send some.
1 second, but he didn't say.
Gersh, I will eat it live on Zoom.
Is that a slice for each of us, Gersh, or how's that work?
Little vegan pie.
Whole pie. We can slice it up. Oh yeah, my daughter Leora, who's helping me with this and so much else, she's suggesting, please, right now before we go off the air, you could put in the chat, put in the comments who you'd like to see as a future guest. We've got some incredible ones lined up, but if you have someone you'd like to see, could be a music superstar, could be a huge rabbi, could be a public motivational speaker.
Could be a senior at Hadar High School for Girls.
Could be our wives, our children, could be your wife.
Well, apparently Rabbi Goldberg has been nominated.
Tell us who you want on. And there you go. Sarah Newcomb suggests Joey Newcomb. And yes, there is a relation between the two. And you know what? We'd thank Hashem if you were able to come on, because we put a pickle in front of every one of us. Product placement. Okay, so please share with us who you'd like to see, and we'd love to have them on. So let's go with one more heavy topic, then we'll end on a light note. And the heavy topic is, someone shared with me earlier today that they've never been diagnosed as an addict, but they have maybe a little bit of an addictive personality, and they find themselves that they are struggling with being home, being alone, being bored, or being tempted to act out in whatever way that means for them. Drinking, smoking, other things they shouldn't be behaving. So I'm wondering if you guys have thoughts on this. This is a new normal for us, right? Being home all the time. And for some people, for rabbis, we're very busy all week, even though we're home. For others, they're less busy. Some, they've been furloughed. They're not working right now. Some live alone, and there's ample opportunity in a place for them to be acting out. We are being Zoom bombed in the comments by anti-Semites. We're going to end soon because...
Maybe just shut down the chat, Rabbi.
Oh yeah, how do you do that?
I don't know, but it sounds good.
Hey now.
Hey,
okay.
Yeah.
Shut it down.
We're gonna wrap up. Although I hate to give them a victory, so instead, everybody turn off the chat. Nobody look at the chat or care. I can't do it.
Victory. There's no victory. You don't have a victory.
Yeah, we're not. Here's the victory against anti-Semites.
We're the victory.
You could try to break in, but we're not going.
Keep yelling. We don't even hear you.
Dispel your darkness. Our Torah is going to crush the good over evil. It always has. It always will. You could try to bomb our groups, but we will be here, and we're not going anywhere. Not tonight, not ever. So anyway, we should keep in mind people who are vulnerable. Daven for them. And maybe next time we'll continue some tips we can give people who struggle when they are alone with how to not be acting out, what they can do to overcome that urge, that instinct, how they can persevere, how they can fill that time, that gap. We'll give that some thought. But for now, we're going to sign out saying L'chaim, wishing everyone to life, to a life of
Can
health.
I just say one thing before we go?
A life of goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just want to say, listen, I see that there's a lot of people trying to imitate shows like this. They're trying to do a show. And I watched a few of them, and they're trying. They're doing a good job. But there is only one show where you're bringing the rabbis together, and you really do get an honest look. I watched some of them. They're not being so honest. It's just to call a spade a spade. They're basically putting on an image of what they think they're supposed to say, but they're not. It's not like this.
If you want to know how honest we are, all three of us.
I'm just saying.
We get
all three of us are sleeping on the couch tonight.
Instant feedback from our wives, maybe a parent. So we are honest to a fault of needing instant feedback. So in any case, I want to thank our panelists as always, the great Rabbi Moskowitz, the great Rabbi Brody, non-alphabetical order, but not any order in particular. And we look forward after the holiday to regrouping, thanks to our sponsors then, and we will defeat these anti-Semites. You can comment, you can write your ugly words and your ugly hate, but it will not silence us. We will continue to meet, and we will continue to spread goodness and light and pray for everybody, even for these evil, wicked people, that they turn their ways. So if you see something, say something. Have a wonderful Yontif, a good Moed, and please God, we'll all be back together in person soon. Thanks so much for joining us.